dear Aniko, why is it important to do what you do? Like, why are you in this field? And in the first place, what it is? Can you tell us a few words?
Well, I was a practicing dentist for over 30 years and in pain almost the whole time from when I was a dental student. Unfortunately, we don't learn what to do with our bodies in order to do dentistry. So I was always twisted. Most right-handed dentists are twisted off to the right, bending the spine in places that are not designed to bend, left shoulder and elbow up. And I was in pain like most dentists are. And when I finally came across the Alexander technique after trying absolutely everything with medical specialists and physical therapists to help myself and found no long-term relief, I applied what I call the inner ergonomic principles of the Alexander technique, and I got well. And then I decided that I'd like to train in this technique so that I can help my colleagues in Australia, where I live, and of course, globally. So this is what prompted me to become an Alexander teacher with the intention of helping dentists reduce the risk of occupational chronic pain, and I also trained their whole team. My plan was to continue part-time dentistry after I completed over 1,600 hours of in-person training in the Alexander technique. And at some point, I found that there are enough dentists looking after teeth. Someone needs to look after dentists. So that's what I'm doing.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's a huge switch, huge from what you've been doing for many years. Dear Aniko, how many years you've been practicing dentistry?
Well, I graduated in 1976, so I've been a dentist for a long time. And I was practicing until a few years ago. And I stepped out only because this training and helping my colleagues is taking up all my time and attention.
I'm constantly updating myself on news in what you do. And I noticed that your Alexander technique or inner ergonomics practice getting busier and busier. So I understand why you had to, make a decision and focus on Alexander technique and kind of leave dental practice, because both require lots of energy, attention.
Absolutely. And also because I suffered for so many years, and it is awful to be in pain. It affects you in every way, physically, mentally, emotionally, that I wanted to save my colleagues. And my aim is to get all this training into dental schools so that the young dentists who are suffering more than my generation, I thought that it would be my generation flocking to my courses. And in fact, young dentists are in more pain than I expected. We should explain what I mean by inner ergonomics, Elena, because in dentistry, there has been an enormous amount of money spent on research and development in ergonomics. And studies have shown that even though that's been happening now for decades, there has been no reduction in occupational chronic pain. And after spending thousands of hours beside my 1,600-hour training in the technique, trying to figure out how to take this to the dental profession so that it's dental industry specific training, and also trying to figure out why ergonomic research and development hasn't helped. And I finally had this light bulb moment when the penny dropped, and I came up with the idea that there is the outer ergonomics, which is everything but the person. So in dentistry, everything but the clinician or the dental assistant. In other areas of work, it's everything but the person working. And of course, the equipment and the surgery layout is important. However, what you're doing on the inside, the way and the how you do what you do in whatever area of work, but especially in dentistry, is what I've called inner ergonomics. You can have the very best equipment and still twist and bend your spine and do things that your body wasn't designed to do. So I call inner ergonomics the operator's efficiency in posture and movement. I call it conducting yourself from the inside out.
Yes, dear Aniko, I have your, I have some of your materials right here. Basically, it's called Directional Thinking by Aniko Bal. So I do have a special binder. It's called Aniko Aniko Bal binder, and it's actually it's very serious because, first of all, thank you very much because of your guidance and specific information that you update constantly on your website, in your educational materials. I was able to be a speaker at Pacifica Dental Conference in 2019, and then was invited again next year. And I think I did share with you before that the interest among dentists here in Vancouver was huge, because in the title I announced that, in ergonomics, the term coined by Aniko Bal and based on Alexander technique, we are talking and dealing with chronic pain, chronic.
Yes.
The interest was huge. The capacity, we had 100 people room capacity, and people started to, come more and more, and basically had to be turned away. And I was so sorry, because I did want more people to know about this too. I know on personal experience and experience of my family and my clients how much it can help. And I did tell you before that I visited so many, basically 50% of dental offices in Vancouver to share the news.
Well, great work, Alina, and it is so needed. Yeah. What I'm finding is that young dentists barely out of dental school are in agony, and we have a huge problem. So what you're doing and what I'm doing is sorely needed.
Yeah. First of all, I would like to ask you, Aniko, why would you say that these days dentists, young dentists who just begin their practice, they have more pain than even a few decades back ago? You graduated in 1976, so why would you say that young dentists have to deal with more pain and more tension? What are the reasons?
I have some ideas or theories. One of them is that this is a generation that grew up using mobile phones, which wasn't in my time. And what people do is stick their head down to the mobile phone. And you and I know, and most people don't know, that the spine is not designed for lengthy bending. Yes. In fact, I use, I don't know if I mentioned this to you, I use a bendy ruler, and yes. I usually demonstrate that you take, if that's the front door and that's the back, we have a slight forward curve of the cervical spine. And then when we take our head down to the mobile phone, we're actually doing that to the spine, and often we also twist it. So it's a good way to drive the point home. So that's one of the reasons, and I usually teach in my courses, we have a wonderful joint called the elbow, bring the phone to you. So these young dentists have been bending over a mobile phone even before they did dentistry. That's one part. Another is that, I don't know about Vancouver, but certainly in Australia, we're seeing a young generation that is sitting a lot in front of devices, and they're not as physically active. And also nowadays, dental students are required to purchase magnification loops. And something that I've discovered just in the last few years is that most magnification loops don't have sufficient declination angle, and dentists don't realize that unless they're working with refractive loops, which are like a mini microscope, they actually have to pivot the torso slightly forward, because there's only a 10-degree freedom to look down at the top of the spine. So what I'm seeing is that young dentists are bending over their mobile phones, they're using inadequate, poorly designed loops, and they think they can sit upright and bend their spine, usually at C7. Many of them are already lining up for cervical surgery. Yeah. And also there is more and more competition and tension in young dentists' lives.
That's right. Aniko, even in this Facebook Live, very short Facebook Live, we are intending to go for about 30 minutes. You're giving so much information for dentists and just for everybody. You know, these are things that we want to pay attention to, because right now in lockdown, in pandemic, all of these issues, they are magnified. We spend even more time with phones and computer screens. I would like to spend a little bit more time on those magnification loops, because again, I'm constantly checking your website and all the materials you publish, and your podcast. Actually, you do have a few amazing podcasts with Robert Rickover, another Alexander teacher. And what I'm trying to say, that you update the information, the specifics that you give out there into the public, into the profession. So those magnification loops, can I verify with you what is a good declination angle? Because the latest I have from you is 45 degree angle. You say this is a sufficient.
So we need to clarify there are two different types. In the past, there was only one type of magnification loop, which was requiring to, which was not like a mini microscope. So there is the refractive type. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that term.
Yes.
There are now loops that are like a mini microscope. So you can sit upright, look ahead, and see down into the patient's mouth. Now with those, the declination angle is not so important because it's a different design. And with that, you can actually sit upright. With the other types, and that's all we had until a few years ago, approximately 45 degree declination angle required. Yeah. However, even with the best design and the correct declination, if a dentist is sitting upright, they still have to bend their neck, because you have to pivot your torso forward at the hip joint just a little bit in order to then be able to look into the mouth without twisting and bending the cervical spine.
So again, this is in ergonomics with these tiny adjustments, but tiny but very important. People can change how much tension they have during a working day in a dental stool. So people can do small adjustments that will change the quality of how they work, how they feel, and basically the quality of service they deliver. Because we all know that arms, shoulders that have more tension, it's very difficult to do the tiny procedures, right? Very precise procedures that dentists do. And when we have less tension in the shoulders, in the arms, in the whole body, we tire less, and we can work longer hours, and we can do better work. So very happy, Aniko, that you were able to connect with us today, because there is 17 hours difference between Vancouver and Melbourne. You are ahead of us, that you were able to connect and give people a few hints, and also resources where dentists can look, can find this information for themselves. Because even with the loops, I guess the person buys them once and uses them for many years. And that's the device that, you spend hours every day working. It's very important to find the right fit. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's one of the most important purchases. And I regularly check dentist loops in my courses, and quite often I tell them that they need to gift it to a jeweler or a dental technician because they're designed as if we're working at bench height, and that's not where the patient's mouth is. A lot of the manufacturers and designers have no idea about biomechanical design principles. And what I'd like to add, Alina, is that
Yes.
I have what I call Inner Ergonomics 101. And
Yes.
there are 3 elements to that. One is the importance of knowing where the important joints are, because most people don't actually know where important joints are. Even people who have studied anatomy. I've even trained doctors, ear, nose, and throat specialists, and they don't know where their head sits on top of the spine or where the hip joint is, because there's a difference between functional anatomy and descriptive anatomy. So one is where your important joints are. 2, which joints are designed for lengthy bending and which are not, and many are not. And also using the right muscles. I call it driving yourself in the right gear. I often use a car metaphor.
Yeah.
And so using movement muscles, for example, holding up, lifting the shoulder and elbow, we're holding up, using movement muscles to hold up a 4+ kilo arm against gravity, and that's not designed for that. So I teach them not to lift their arm, and you turn on their inner ergonomics by utilizing postural muscles, switching on their anti-gravity support. So it's knowing how you are designed so that you can work with patients in a way that allows you to organize yourself from the inside out in a way that's not causing you harm.
And yes, and arms are important, and that's the thing, Aniko. Thank you very much for mentioning that, because I was going to say, and maybe even to ask you, the arms. Many people have, like small tricks, like, when we work with arms, maybe squeezing the elbow in or fixing the shoulder, and these habits, they do work for a while. We all have them until we start to develop some symptoms, some pain, and then we start to look for better solutions. And again, the purpose of this Facebook Lives video to let people know, to explain that there are tools, there are resources that can help us, everybody, dentists and other professions, to find much better ways to deal with tension. So, Aniko, for the arms, what are your maybe like general directions or general ideas or advice when people start to have tension in shoulders, in arms, while working or doing things, right? What is the first tip you would advise, you would share?
Well, the first thing I would explain, and unfortunately I have a lot of dentists, some of them very young, who are looking down the barrel of shoulder surgery because they're doing terrible things with their arms, like pulling it into the joint, twisting. And the first thing I say is that we're designed to have our head and limbs lengthening out of the torso. So pulling it in, holding it against the side is activating movement muscles that are not designed for lengthy bending. And I train with dentists, I train them not to brace. Most problems are with the left. So for a right-handed dentist, mostly the problems are on the left side because the left hand holds a mirror and is hovering. And that means if I said to you, hold your arm out for lengthy period, you know that you're going to have shoulder pain. And I explain that hovering without support is the same as this. So I teach dentists to find a finger rest, an anchor in the mouth on a tooth for their non-dominant arm, so left hand. And then I teach them what's called, you and I know, directional thinking, where I get dentists to think in directions of shoulder away from shoulder, and then training away from dentistry so that they can then think in a vector, releasing the upper arm away from the shoulder, arm away from the elbow, and all the way down, literally releasing the arm the weight of the arm onto that tooth, which the patient doesn't feel. And when I do this in person with dentists, I get them to hover, then I get them to find a finger rest, and I give them this directional thinking and release, and do nothing with the arm. And I usually wobble and they do nothing. And then I say, now go back to your habit of hovering. And suddenly they notice all the muscles that have to come into action. And these are movement muscles which are designed for a quick movement. They are fast twitch muscles. And they are shocked to discover how much work the arm and shoulder was doing, totally unnecessarily, and costing them pain. I had burning pain in my left shoulder for decades.
Muscular pain is one of the strongest pains possible because, well, muscles are big, so the area that's involved in that pain reflex is huge. Dear Aniko, whenever I mention this finger rest principle for both arms to the dentist, actually some do come back and say thank you, and some still figuring out, because we do know that force of habit is very strong. To change the habit requires some time, some effort, some attention. But I would like to again to ask about your example. After so many years of doing the same things in dentistry, doing the same movements, you were able to change them and to feel the difference in the level of pain and tension in yourself. Is that true? So
yeah, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. And habit change is a very big part of our teaching. I spend as much time training dentists in knowing what their body was designed to do and how to apply the directional thinking and the Alexander principles to dentistry and daily life, as I do in teaching them how to break habits. And the only way to break habits is, first of all, to understand the cost of the harmful habit. And of course, you only need to change the harmful habits. And then to start becoming aware, I call it postural awareness. Unless you're aware of how you do whatever you do away from the clinic, there's no way that you can change habits in the clinic when you have a patient and complex treatment. So I train dentists to notice what they're doing and also to ask for help, because whatever we've been doing feels so familiar, we don't notice it. So in the clinic, I train the dental assistant who works with the dentist to remind the dentist whenever they no longer have a finger rest or they forget that they are not meant to be twisting and bending, as I did with my bendy ruler. So it's great to train the team together so they can help each other in habit change. Also, I say, ask the people you live with, if every time you take your head down to the mobile phone, get them to just do that to you and bring the mobile phone up. Because again, unless you change that habit in your daily life, no way can you change harmful work habits in the clinic.
Yeah, people you live with or your friends, your family can give you feedback, but probably the most precious feedback you can get is from Alexander teacher. The question to you, dear Aniko, do you think that people who are not dentists, but Alexander teachers are able to help your colleagues, are able to help dentists to, you know, learn this directional thinking and feel less pain while working?
Absolutely. I've met many Alexander teachers who have never understood what dentists do and certainly have no dental background, and they've been helping dentists for decades. So learning in general how the body was designed to move and what not to do, and learning to release thinking in directions. And directional thinking is essentially allowing muscles to function in their optimal length. That in itself will make a huge difference. And of course, any Alexander teacher that would like to know more about the dental specific applications, they're welcome to talk to me. My aim is to have teachers all over the world help dentists.
You've been very helpful over the, well, many years now. And, you know, I talked to you on the phone when I needed your guidance before going to the conference. And several other occasions. And I just would like to say that there are a few very brave people in the world. You're one of them who venture to, well, retrain and, you know, find and explore the alternative, not so popular solutions for chronic pain. And Aniko, I think from the people I know, there are three who are very important in my life. Yourself, then yoga for scoliosis teacher, uh, because she's so brave to, you know, still practice yoga and do this movement with extreme scoliosis. I think she provides a very brave example for many people who are scared. Fear becomes one of important issues for people with pain. And then David Hanscom, I mentioned him to you before. He practiced surgery for decades. He's orthopedic surgeon. And right now he works with people with chronic pain because, again, he explains to us that surgery oftentimes is not the solution for chronic pain. Basically, he says that 70% of surgeries that are being performed are not necessary. And it's a huge factor. So basically, he retrained and he's working with chronic pain right now. And it's his mission to educate people because nobody wants to go through the surgery that they don't need. Lengthy recovery time. And again, after having a surgery, people still have to find solutions because if those faulty tension patterns exist, we have to learn how to work with less tension.
Absolutely. Well, the main reason why I am doing what I'm doing is that I'm passionate about helping people, because I know that after trying everything, the only thing that helped me was the Alexander technique. I actually call it the user guide to the human body, because everything we get these days has a user guide, and we think we can do anything with the body, and certainly movement we can, but or for the most part, but when we're holding postures like we do in dentistry and in many areas of work, that's a different story. Had anything else worked for me, I wouldn't have bothered to do what I'm doing, but nothing else worked. I always use, you've probably heard me say this in some of my podcast interviews that I've done. I usually in my talks, I do a lot of presentations as well as running my courses and also teaching one-on-one. And I usually show a crushed car with its side crushed. And I say that if I was your local car mechanic and you kept bringing me a car like this every week or month, it would be great for my business to keep repairing and replacing. However, if I really wanted to help you, I should ask, show me how you drive. I mean, if you never give way to the right, in Australia, you're meant to, oh, well, now actually it's at the left. Then you'll have the problem. So I say to people, I love using the car metaphor. I say, learn the road rules and drive the car in the right gear. And you don't have to be a mechanical engineer to know that your car selects a high gear when going fast and a low gear when going uphill and a few other things and the road rules. And in the same, in a way, similarly, there are biomechanical design principles and road rules to our body and our whole being. And when people know that, and that's what we teach, then they have got a guide, a blueprint for how they are organizing themselves in whatever activity they do.
Yes. Aniko, even the most expensive cars, even the most expensive equipment, if you know how to use them, even the healthiest bodies, right? If you know how to use them, they will last longer, they will serve us better, we will feel better. And that's the ultimate goal, I guess, finding more well-being. And the last question to you, dear Aniko, today probably we will be wrapping up for tonight. I hope for more interviews in the future. How people, dentists, can find you, your information, how can they find your resources? Where?
I have a Facebook page, Optimum Dental Posture,
Optimum
and
Dental.
I have posted. It's actually worth going back to 2018 and scrolls through from there on, even earlier.
Yep.
I have a lot of very useful information in small packets of all that we talked about applied to dentistry, and many dentists have told me they're just reading my postings.
Nice.
But already making a difference, and many said that they already have less arm pain.
Good.
I'm based in Australia, and of course there's no trouble right now, so
Wow.
I'm teaching online, but people can just read my postings and it's packed with useful information.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So Optimum Dental Posture, it's on Facebook, right? It's a website, as is Optimum Dental Posture.
There is a website. There's also a Facebook page.
There are absolutely amazing, useful podcasts. If they type Aniko Bal podcast, they'll find them with Robert Recover.
Well,
right?
There's more than that. I've been interviewed by many dentists, and there are a number of podcasts of these interviews with dentists about the way I teach that are also published on my Facebook page.
Thank you, Aniko, for coming out. Yes, I think it's what you mentioned. It's the best gift for an Alexander teacher, any Alexander teacher, to hear that somebody has less arm pain, shoulder pain, because we do spend so much time, and it's a real work to help people with their chronic pain. And here is the message to all of us, Facebook viewers and dentists, guys, never give up. If there is pain that doesn't go away, keep looking. There are so many resources out there, including Alexander technique, including inner ergonomics. That's my favorite lens. I am, besides Alexander teacher, a yoga instructor, but I do use Alexander technique in every area of my life. And dear Aniko, are there any final words from you for us tonight before we wrap up? Anything else you would like to add?
Well, I would like to say that learning to apply the Alexander principles to whatever you do, including dentistry and especially dentistry, but absolutely anything and everything, makes for a much better life quality, career longevity, and the ability to just manage to get through life with all its challenges. So I'm very much a fan of this work because it has worked for me and it's making a difference to people. Thank you, Elena, for the opportunity to talk with you and make a difference to anyone who watches and listens to this conversation. And I look forward to any future time that you'd like to continue having this conversation.
Thank you, dear Aniko. And that's the thing that all of us share. We do go through life and we do find better ways, looking for better ways for ourselves to accomplish that mission. Thank you, Aniko. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful Saturday in Melbourne.
Thank
Bye.
you very much.
Thank you from all
All
of
the
us.
best. Bye.
Bye.